What's up, friends and foes? Welcome to Let's Get Nerdy. My name is Corey.
I'm Wyatt.
And it's not every day we get a brand new Superman movie that we're both incredibly excited about. I will speak for Wyatt on that one.
That's fair. Go for it.
But we figured not only so we can be excited for the future, we have to go back to the past. And pay homage or at least talk about what came before. So we're going all the way back today to almost the beginning. We're not doing the 50s, Superman versus the Mole Men, or like the World War II serials with George Reeves. No, the World War II ones don't have George Reeves. Those are the 50s ones.
Is it? Okay, I have no idea.
Yes, so instead today we're starting at almost the beginning. The first superhero blockbuster for sure, 1977's Richard Donner's Superman the Movie. Starting off right off the bat, kind of similar to another series we do called Go Go Godzilla. Wyatt. Before we get into our thoughts of the movie today, I kind of want to see if we have... I want to know what your history is, because I know my history, obviously. What's your history with Superman 1 and 2?
Not much. Not much at all. So I had... obviously I've seen these movies. I say obviously. I had seen these movies when I was a kid. But it's been a very long time. You want me to hold that?
If you want to hold it, you
can. I just see like the waves are like so so tiny. So I had seen these movies when I was a kid. I watched them at my grandparents' house, and probably here and there on TV. But I hadn't watched them in at least 15 plus years.
Okay.
I'd seen clips and bits and pieces here and there, but really that I didn't remember much of them at all. Mm-hmm. Past just like the brief flashes of nostalgia that I got from... I don't even think I could remember like a full scene, just like images of it, I guess, rather. So this was kind of like... It was almost like not a first viewing, but it was almost like a first viewing for me. So that was pretty exciting.
Kind of similar for me. I think I am a lot more nostalgic for this movie because like I remember watching it as a kid, and I remember having like, I don't want to say obsessions with it, but like moments in time of loving it where like I would watch it and then go get like the bed sheet to wear as a cape around the house. Yeah. And so there's definitely nostalgia, but like, yeah, it had been, honestly for me, 20 years probably. Damn. Like it had been a very long time since I actually sat down to watch these movies. And it felt really like each scene felt like a Russian soldier being programmed or something like that, because it's like, oh, it's all coming back to me. Oh God, it's all coming back. So fairly nostalgic. A lot of it was like literally being like, oh my God, yeah, I remember all of this. Yeah. That's crazy. And yeah. And now we're going to kind of start actually breaking the movie down. Of course, I'll start with the director, Richard Donner, who he, before this, was actually most known for directing like TV shows and one movie in particular, a horror movie called The Omen. Have you ever heard of it or seen The Omen?
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
I've seen a bit of it when I was a kid. Around the same time I would watch this. Was very scared of it as a kid, so I couldn't tell you anything about it now, and I don't want to find out anything about it now.
Yeah, same.
But yeah, and so this is a movie when he signed on to it. There was a few other directors in question, but eventually they landed on Richard Donner. And this was very much a movie he wanted to make it as big a spectacle as possible. Like literally, he wanted it to pretty much be like kind of the Clash of the Titans of that era, of like this just landmark giant epic of a movie. Because actually, fun fact, Superman 1 and 2, and we'll kind of get more into this once we start talking about 2. 1 and 2 specifically were like, he was trying to film them all at one time as like a 3-hour movie.
Really?
Yes. And you can kind of tell into that because like the movie starts. So the movie on HBO Max, I don't know if this is how the actual movie starts, but the movie starts with like an old serial-ish looking scene of like the year 1938 randomly coming up, and a child mentioning that like the rest of the country, Metropolis was hit by the Great Depression, and that the Daily Planet was a symbol of truth. And I thought for a second I had put on the wrong movie, and then for a second, then when I realized no, I put on the right one, I thought Max had maybe the wrong movie, and it turns out I was just way too tired to be watching it at that time. But I was confused until we get the opening credits with the absolutely iconic, not at all recycled theme by John Williams, which I actually have in my notes. Both of the opening credits and the song are very similar to that of the original Star Wars and its opening crawl. But I still think there's something super just classic about this, with the credits swooping in one by one, with the sound effect with every single credit happening, and just kind of like the laser effects on the wording. Yeah. I don't know if you cared that much about it, but for some reason as a kid I loved this, so I remember loving it as a kid.
Oh, okay.
How did you feel about the opening credits?
So I really like them, honestly. It kind of hits that like just button. Like I've talked about how the new Superman trailer has made me feel like just excited, and like it just feels vibrant and like just makes you excited for that movie. And like for superhero stuff, I don't know if nostalgic is the right word for me, but just because I don't have as much of a connection with it as you do, but I do get some nostalgia to it. But the visuals are really cool. Like it's all vibrant and fun, and like there's lasers, which it felt very 80s, even though it's in the 70s, mm-hmm. late 70s, I guess. The sound effects are cool, but it is fucking slow.
It is very slow.
It fucking drags.
So this is definitely a movie, and I'm sorry if I'm cutting you off here. This is definitely a movie that I'm going to say is. I'm not going to laugh whenever we're passing the mic. That I think. How do I say this? Like, because you say it's very 80s. I think it very much sets the tone for, this is very much one of the first quote unquote like blockbusters, because this is very much the era of like Jaws, Star Wars, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like very much movies of these kinds like are starting to come out. I think this is a movie that sets a lot of the standards, not just for summer blockbusters, but obviously superheroes and comic book movies. So yes, I'm just gonna do this.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna laugh too much. So.
Okay. Well, and I think like it's one thing about it too is like maybe because like I don't think we're as used to
opening credits,
like especially not ones that are this long, but they seem to be much more common in movies of that era. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I still enjoyed it. It was kind of cool because it was like I had a second to get up and go get a drink. And then come back. Well, actually, I made coffee, and then I came back, and the shit was still going, and I was like, "God damn, really?
Oh my god! How many people are in this fucking thing?" But soon after the opening credit, the opening crawl, similar to Star Wars, giving away to the Corvette running from the Imperial Star Destroyer, right? Star Destroyer. The opening crawl gives away to what we soon learn is the Red Sun, followed by the birthplace of our titular character. Not a dimly lit office in Cleveland, Ohio, but in fact Krypton.
Krypton.
Yes, yeah. But that is a reference to the Superman was conceived in a Ohio office. Yeah, but yeah, we are on Krypton, as Marlo Brando will continue to say, as he's playing Jor-El, sentences Non, Ursa, and General Zod, played by Terrence Stamp Wyatt, who you might know better as a fun fact. He plays Jor-El in Smallville. Jor-El in Smallville. I'm not saying that's what you would know him as. I'm just saying. I'm just saying he plays Jor-El in Smallville.
Okay. Who does?
Terrence Stamp.
Which one was that?
He plays Zod.
Really?
Yes. You would know him better as Prophet of Truth in Halo 3. Does that mean anything to you?
Fucking what?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yes, yeah. This is one of those guys, like, he's in a bunch of stuff that you're, like, if you look at his IMDb and his Wikipedia, you're like, oh my god. But that's the one that stuck out to me that I knew you would, like, immediately be like, no way.
Dude.
Yeah.
Okay, like, his voice sounded familiar.
Yeah.
But I couldn't fucking pinpoint it.
Yeah. So.
Oh my god.
So anyway, as prophet of truth is sentenced to the negative zone, he as he's being sentenced yells to Jor-El that one day, Jor-El and your hair will bow to me. What did you think of the scene, Wyatt?
It's pretty intense.
Yes.
I love I don't know. I really enjoyed the whole opening segment.
Mm-hmm.
Being on Krypton. And the way that they say
Krypton
fucking cracks me up.
Yes.
But I love it.
Yeah. Krypton.
It's so, I don't know, it's just so, I don't know. It's fun. It's like spacey, but also like kind of mysterious at the same time. Because there's not like a lot of computers or screens or anything like that. But it's just kind of cool to see like how they utilize that in their advanced technology and stuff. But
yeah, the set of Krypton does. I love how it feels so. I actually having it otherworldly and mysterious. I also want to shout out, like, as we get into, because next to my notes, I shout out the scene where he's arguing with the council of Krypton is about to explode in the most high vis outfits you'll ever see.
Oh, dude.
Krypton about to explode, and the council argues that Krypton is simply adjusting its orbit, which why I'm not a scientist or an expert in really anything, but I do think orbits adjusting is still a really bad thing, right? That's not good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they took that so lightly. They didn't seem to give a shit.
Yep.
I mean, they didn't listen to him at all, and he's supposed to be some kind of a scientific expert, or I don't know what his exact title is, but I mean, he has some authority and some, like, they respect him, and they were just like, nah.
Yeah, they let him send a man to the negative zone, but not save his planet.
Yeah.
So with that, he promises that he nor his wife will leave Krypton, but he doesn't say. He only says he and his wife.
Yeah.
Wink. And as he walks away with his fingers crossed behind his back, begins the process of he and his wife sending his wife Laura sending his son Kal-El to Earth to survive, where he will be ahead of them evolutionarily. Thank you very much. Speaking with the quote, "An advantage he'll need to survive," which is like, what? He can't just be evenly, like, he can't. But anyways, this is all a metaphor for nepo babies, actually. But as they fling the little fucker into space, as the previously mentioned red sun does in fact explode, but not before the high-vis suits become increasingly red. Unfortunately, no amount of visual aid would save the Kryptons from colliding with an exploding sun.
Yeah. I wonder why they made those suits so obnoxiously bright.
I think that was just kind of the sci-fi thing to do of the time. But or just, I don't know, like, just to create such an interesting, like, an immediately interesting visual. Because I do shout out here in my notes that, like, just how much I love the set design, which I think I've already said that.
Yeah.
And it does, like, I want one.
I think they're really cool, and they do a great job of grabbing your eyes and pulling you to the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're really cool. It is unique though, because I don't think we've seen another sci-fi-esque thing where their outfits have just been really bright.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I thought it was cool.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to shout out here, specifically here, because it's kind of where we get it the most, is this is the era also of, like, acting styles transitioning, where with Marlon Brando as, like, Jor-El, you really get the old, like, transatlantic, like, King Kong old school style of, like, almost like theater acting on camera, mixed with, like, the small, like, modern small acting that you would see more in, like, at the time, like, another example I would say is Rambo. If you ever watch the first Rambo, Sylvester Stallone acting wise kills it, but then I forget the name, the officer, like, that knows him comes in, is the most like, John, you need to get out of the forest, John. You're causing a lot of damage, John. Yeah. And this is very much the, like, Jor-El, you will not send your son,
Yeah.
And I love that. I love, because, I don't know, it kind of adds to the, like, almost like it. How do I say, like the Greek mythology feeling to this?
It does, yeah. It's. I think we kind of talked about it in either, I don't know, one of the Godzilla videos or the King Kong videos or something, that like these old movies, like they have their own unique charm, and a lot of it does come from that acting and how their movements are so exaggerated, and the way they speak, like you said, that transatlantic style of dialogue or dialect, whatever the fuck. I don't know. It does have a certain charm to it that you don't get nowadays. But that's interesting that you kind of pointed out. Like this movie does have like a bit of a transition period feel to it, between that old style of stuff and then coming into like more. I don't want to say modern, but like a newer form of acting. You know.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really picked. I think I picked up on it, but I didn't think about it to myself. I guess But there is some interesting dynamics in there.
Yeah, but after that scene closes, as Kal-El is launched towards Earth, we do get a montage of him being educated about the history of Earth and Krypton, until landing in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, just as we're introduced to Martha and Jonathan Kent, in a scene where I feel like I'm going to be put on a list just for watching.
Yeah, that.
We don't need a minute. Let's leave it at that. We do get Jonathan and Jonathan Kent, played by Glenn Ford, and Martha Kent, played by Phyllis Thaxter, debating if they should keep him or not, like he's a dog on the side of the road. But this is not before Kal-El lifts the truck, and sure as shit, Pa Kent's know he's going to put this boy to work.
Well, it was just like Martha was straight up like abducting him.
Yeah,
she was like no, we can just say he's from our family up
north. She's like, I got an alibi. Let's.
Jonathan was at least like, we don't even know who he is or where he came from or anything, and she's just like, yeah, but like.
Exactly. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Let's take him. So that's fun. And so then we immediately cut to Cal, is now a full teenager, no longer going by Kal-El, but now Clark Kent, played physically by Jeff Eastwhite. I say physically because that was not his voice.
Really?
Yes, Christopher Reeve, who we'll talk about later, redubbed all of his lines. And Jeff East was very offended by this.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I would be offended too.
He was even like, you know what? Like, yeah, he did, Christopher Reeve did a great job, but like, why? And then how do I say this? You notice how he looked really fucking weird?
Yeah.
That's because they put him in like for like 3 to 4 hours of like prosthetic makeup every day to look more like Christopher Reeve, and he just looked fucking ugly. Which I don't know what he looks like normally, but if they're covering whatever they're covering up, has to look better than this.
It was just kind of weird.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah, so he, at this point in our story, he's the equipment manager for Smallville's football team. He's helping out Lana Lang until she runs off with some asshat with a car. We get the first glimpse of his powers as this boy starts running. He races a train and catches up to the aforementioned teenagers, with Pa Kent taking witness of Clark showing off, reminding him that he could use his powers to be the star athlete, but he was meant for something far greater. And then, in his anger, Clark challenges Pa to a race, and the pain of losing to Smallville's lowly pussy football equipment manager hurt Pa Kent so bad that it caused him to have a heart attack and die.
Dude, that was pretty rough.
Oh,
I don't know why.
I'm making a joke of it. It is a fucking great scene.
It's a fantastic scene. It's so like their conversation is just heartwarming. I mean, it was acted very well.
Oh yeah.
And then just them walking up the driveway, all like just great scene. Reminded me of like walking up the driveway with like my grandpa or something like that, But yeah, then like they're having this fun, like, oh, I'm gonna run, and there's a dog, and everyone's having a good time, and he just fucking grabs his heart, and he's like, oh no.
Oh yeah.
Didn't remember that at all.
Yeah.
Wasn't expecting that.
Oh yeah, and I love how they like. It's not this like close up dramatic like goodbye. It's like how they're pulling away, and all you hear is them kind of like screaming and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good. And I think it is worth mentioning, like, a reason I'm so partial to Superman, or I've grown more partial to Superman, is like because the idea of Clark Kent being from Smallville, Kansas.
Yeah.
We went to high school at a place called Tonganoxie. It literally has 2 stoplights.
Yeah.
We're from Smallville, Kansas, so I really feel partial to. That's why I think I feel so partial to him.
Yeah.
I don't know why I felt the need to say that there, but
I mean, it's relevant. I think because we are from a tinky tiny fucking farm town.
Yeah.
So I mean.
Yeah. So the whole idea of. I don't know.
But okay, talking about that though, this is kind of relevant because we're almost to that point in the film. When they are at the cemetery and they're laying Jonathan to rest and stuff. I don't know. You may have this in your notes. That particular scene. Where in the fuck in Kansas do they have valleys that big though? It is flatter than shit here. And
the fucking hills.
The Flint Hills?
Flint Hills, yeah.
Yeah, but those are like hills, not valleys.
Come on, man. That could be where Clark has just been practicing running and he's withered it down.
Hey, you right.
Checkmate.
They did get the classic like Kansas sunset, sunrise.
Oh yeah.
That was cool over the wheat field and stuff. That was cool.
Oh yeah. I will argue. I've been all over this country. Not really, but I've been to other places that aren't Kansas, and Kansas still has the best sunrise.
They do.
And sunset.
We do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, we do get Clark and Martha putting to rest his father as Clark laments that despite his great powers, he could not save his father, which you could have fucking run him to the hospital, but. It's also like it's supposed to be like the 50s, so not exactly modern medicine they're working with there, especially in Kansas. We're from Kansas, but we're from Kansas, so we're kind of idiots.
Yeah, what he said.
Agree or no?
Yeah. Also, I had one more point I was going to make too. That scene when Jonathan passes away and shit, far better than the scene from Man of Steel.
We'll get to that.
I know. We'll get to
no
that.
Future spoilers, no future movies yet. Let's leave it to this movie.
Wink, wink.
Yeah, let's leave it to this movie for now, because we will be talking about Man of Steel. Let's stick to this movie because it's already going to be long enough talking about this movie. So we'll compare later, or we'll act like when we're covering this movie, we'll act like no other movies have happened yet, because granted they haven't. So, anyways, we do end up getting Clark discovering a crystal that Jor-El sent to him on the evening of his 18th birthday. That's glowing green, and we get a touching final scene with Martha saying goodbye to Clark as she knows she's come to terms that he has to go find his purpose. I do have to know. I keep calling her Ma Kent. My brain calls them Ma and Pa Kent. Like the Martha and Jonathan shit. Snyder stuff. We'll get to that later. Anyways, we then fade to Clark wandering upon the set of Elf over 20 years before the movie would ever go into production. Do you get that joke? The set on Antarctica as he goes up, as he it looks like when Buddy the Elf is like riding the ice. You know what I'm talking about?
Not specifically.
Has it been longer that you've watched Elf than it has you've watched Superman?
I don't know that I've ever actually seen the whole movie of Elf, all the way through. Man,
this is a great joke wasted upon you. So anyway, as Clark is found upon the set of Elf over 20 years in Antarctica, where he throws the green crystal into the icy water, and we get the Fortress of Solitude emerging. Something I do find funny is when the fortress was fully revealed, I had the thought like, damn, it looks like he still has to walk quite a bit of ways to get to the fortress. And they actually did cut to a shot of him walking over to the fortress. And eventually, once he is inside, after like 3 hours, I assume, we get his first message from Jor-El, which is because it seems to be like somewhere between a pre-recorded and even like an AI Marlon Brando. Mm-hmm. Because I can't tell if like the holograms are responding to what Clark says or they're just pre-canned. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I kind of had the same thought too, and I wasn't sure because at first I like that particular scene that you're talking about with that introductory scene with Jor-El. That seems like it's an AI, But then, as you progress through this movie and even into number two, like
all just seems like recording.
It seems like it's recording, and like they were predicting what might be asked or said.
Yeah.
And they had like a predetermined response. So
yeah. So with that, we get Marlon Brando or Jor-El fully educating Clark on his own background and the powers I assume that he has. With ending with the quote, "They only lack the light to show the way. For this reason, above all, their capacity for good. I have sent them you, my only son." Fucking love that quote. I fucking love how much like poetic this movie gets with some of its stuff. It's just where it really feeds into Richard Donner wanting this to be an epic and like kind of like a modern Greek, story, I guess is the best way to put it. But with that, we do bid adieu to Jeff East and his strangely furrowed brow. I wrote that note before I realized it was prosthetics when I said he had a furrowed brow. But then we get our first shot of our man, Christopher Reeve, in the classic red and blue as he takes flight towards his destiny with the music swelling behind him. And I don't know about you, Wyatt, but that scene got me literally. It was like 2 a.m. I got fucking hyped about it. I was like, fuck yes. I think this shot is absolutely perfect because you get everything, but it's almost like the Bigfoot footage from back in the day, where it's like you see it, but it's like, wait, but like, oh, I can't wait to see what's next kind of feeling. What did you think of Christopher Reeve?
Oh, he's fucking awesome,
dude. He's the fucking man. First of all, nowadays people are always talking about like Robert Downey Jr. is like the perfect acting, like the perfect casting.
Yeah.
Christopher Reeve is the first perfect like casting for Superman, to the point that like they had other people that they were looking at that were bigger names, like Robert Redford was somebody that they were looking at. There's a few other, like Paul Newman was even in talks, like some pretty even John Wayne's son was at one point talking about it. But it was like, I forget who it was, but it was somebody that was like, you guys need to do just do a screen test with Christopher Reeve, because Christopher Reeve was pretty much a nobody. Like he was doing like off Broadway, like some Broadway stuff. He was like a theater actor from New York.
Really?
Yeah, like he was actually best known at this time for probably being like friends with Robin Williams, because he and Robin Williams were like best friends. And they're like, you just need, and like as soon as they all saw him as Clark, they're like, as Superman specifically, they're like, yes, he's our guy. He's our guy. And I think they absolutely knocked it out of the park. One other note I want to say here is, so the scene where he's walking away, fun fact about this, Christopher Reeve, no S, George Reeves, S. George Reeves played Superman in the 50s.
Okay.
And so often people call him Christopher Reeves because of that, but it's just Reeve.
I always thought I thought it was Christopher Reeves. I didn't realize until the opening crawl that it was just Reeve.
Yep.
So yeah, I was one of those people.
Yep. But as he's flying away, so in real life, Christopher Reeve was an avid parasailer, which is a crazy thing to be an avid thing of. I've never done it once, but he was an avid one. And so the little touch of him like banking out of the shot, that was Christopher Reeve just doing that. Nobody told him to do that. And like everybody on set when he did that were like, oh, yes. They're like, oh, that's exactly it. So fun fact there.
That's interesting.
Anyways, we now find ourselves in a hustling, bustling metropolis at the foot of the Daily Planet, sans the planet on top, by the way, where we are introduced to Margot Kidder, otherwise known as Lois Lane, taking a story to the Daily Planet editor-in-chief, Perry White, and the first appearance of Christopher Reeve, now as the mild-mannered Clark Kent. Lois is busy selling her story to Perry White while helping Clark open the soda for Perry White that explodes. And immediately, Clark was helping Perry White open the soda, and he causes it to explode.
Yeah.
Immediately, these two, fucking Clark and Lois, have fucking great chemistry. And because this is like where the Perry White's like, oh, you want this much of your check sent home, and Lois hits him with the line like, are there any more at home like you? And Clark's like, no, not really.
Not really.
As it's just like such a like that first initial interaction between them as at the day is like so simple, but just so fucking charming.
Yeah.
Like these two have the whole movie have incredible chemistry, both as Clark and Superman.
Yeah.
But then we get Clark and Oh, am I fucking up? No, I'm not. As we get Clark and Lois leaving the Daily Planet, they are immediately held at gunpoint and forced into an alley. Clark does attempt to talk to the mugger, or talk down the mugger before Lois just straight up jumps to action, drops her purse, kicks the guy in the nads. Oh no, kicks the guy in the face. And as he fires the gun, Lois flinching, and Clark grabs the fucking bullet and falls back into the doorway, pretending to have fainted out of fear. I love this scene.
Yeah.
This could possibly be my favorite scene of the movie.
Okay.
Because it's just so simple, but it's just perfect. Like,
Yeah.
what did you? Any any thoughts?
I mean, I feel like you're saying everything that I want to say too. Like, it's. I think the chemistry between those two and just, I mean, Lois and Clark and Lois Superman, whatever you want to say, they're just such classic characters.
Yeah.
In and of themselves, it's fun to see anyway. But I think these two, like, they just did such a good job, and like they're so different as characters, but then they complement each other so well as characters. I don't know. They're just great. This scene is great. This whole opening introductory scene to the Daily Planet. I almost said the Daily Bugle. And just, being introduced to New York and all the crazy shit going on in New York, and how everyone in New York is so just used to all the weird shit going on, and Clark is kind of like,
This isn't New York.
huh?
It's not New York.
Fuck.
Metropolis.
Hey.
See, so this is where I think also to give background on our history, you were not a DC kid growing up.
No.
So
It's like I just said, I almost said the Daily Bugle. So
Yep.
apparently I'm thinking of Spider-Man subconsciously.
yeah, absolutely.
Metropolis.
But so then I guess getting back to the or were you done with your point?
I mean, that was pretty much
Okay.
Yeah. Pretty much it.
I do the scene. I do also love the scene. Ends with like Clark pretty much like smirking at the camera after pulling that off, like pretty much like winking. Kind of the first glimpse of like Christopher Reeve being able to go in and out of that like Clark character.
Yeah.
Sick, Miss Tessmacher. Sick when I'm mere days away from executing the crime of the century. We get the reveal of the iconic Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor after a crony of his, Otis, is tailed into the subway tunnels by a pair of detectives who discover the secret doorway entrance to Lex's lair. And then as he's trying to make his way into Lex's lair, Lex pushes the detective onto the fucking train tracks in just what might be the most fucking brilliant, cold, Joker-esque introduction we've ever gotten of a villain. What did you think of the introduction of Lex Luthor and Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor?
I thought it was awesome. Like I've talked a little bit before about how, like, when I think of Lex, I always think of the cartoon, the Justice League cartoon, that version of Lex Luthor. So like, I know we're kind of sticking to just this movie, but like the Jesse Eisenberg didn't land it with me. Like, I'm not super excited about the new one. I'm intrigued, but not. I don't know. It's not like catching me. And I didn't remember shit about this Lex at all. And he's fucking awesome. He's great. Like, this little trio of characters is great.
Oh, yeah.
They're so, like, it made me think of the bandits from Home Alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, they're just really fun. Like, I wanted more of these characters and more scenes with Lex, and like, they just have such a fun dynamic between all of them. But yeah, the introduction when he pushes the detective out on the tracks, that's pretty fucking cold. And like with for a movie with not a lot of violence or not a lot of like death or anything, that was pretty out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was great. Gene Hackman's fucking awesome anyway too. So
Yeah, there's like something like in my notes I like there's something like just I feel like that's so electric about his performance with like every line. So with the group, him, Otis, and Ms. Textmacher, like there's like a Three Stooges almost to
is,
it.
yeah.
But with him, there's just something always sinister
Yeah.
underlying with it. Like even so, like the fucking scheme is a real estate scheme. He makes that entertaining and intriguing. So that's fucking awesome. You know, we'll talk more about him as we get more into it. We do get this a brief scene of Clark not entirely fitting into the Daily Planet so well. We probably get, I'd argue, the most iconic scene, or sorry, after a brief scene of not fitting into the Daily Planet so well, we get probably what I would argue is the most iconic scene of the movie, as Lois Lane is getting into a helicopter transport to meet, as she says, you know who, a cable, which I think it was going to be the president, but they don't really specify who the president is. I don't know. A cable holding the helicopter down snaps and sends it to the edge of the Daily Planet, leaving Lois hanging from the side as she is trying to escape with the gathering crowd down below. Clark immediately takes notice and springs into action, changing into a revolving door, creating, fun fact, a very early childhood obsession of mine. Because of this scene, I loved running into like revolving doors and going as fast as I could.
Oh.
It's something that still occurs to me every time I go into a revolving door. But also, I feel like you don't see revolving doors a lot anymore.
No, not anymore.
They probably have been replaced by automatic doors now that I'm thinking out loud.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which
it's just a little bit more efficient.
Yeah, more efficient, but not as fun.
That's true. I did think it was interesting how he started to go into a phone booth, but it was one of those like just covered the top half of you.
Yeah.
So that was kind of
a funny gag.
Phone booth gag thing. So.
Yeah. So with that, we get the changing and the final, like the first full-on reveal with the music playing of Superman springing into action as we get Superman in full effect for the very first time in this film with the theme taking full effect. I love, before we even get to anything that happens after, I love the teases of the like bum ba dum, like bum ba dum, louder and louder of like until like he finally springs into action and catches her. And like I love when he comes out of the fucking door and you get the dude in like the car going like going damn man. Fucking all of this is just iconic as like, you know, he catches Lois Lane and says like, don't worry ma'am, I got you, and she looks at him and goes, you got me, who's got you? Fucking so good. And this just adds to a layer of like Christopher Reeve's performance where he's just, as Superman, is just so endlessly charming, and what I'm gonna say it, distractingly handsome.
Oh yeah,
Christopher Reeve might be the most handsome man ever.
It's not fair.
And you know, this is where like I'll cut in with like, you know, a big reason why Christopher Reeve actually ended up taking the role is because like he was not a guy who is an avid parasailer, is not a comic book fan, if you can believe it. So he didn't really have a connection to the character. But he liked the prospect of, like, playing the double character of Clark Kent and Superman.
Yeah.
Which, fun fact, like, a producer actually corrected him on. He's like, no. Clark Kent, like, you're always Superman. Like, you're Superman playing Clark Kent.
Yeah.
And which I thought was a good distinction. But getting to his performance of Superman, he, like, has spoken about how he purposely played it not with this like brash forward strength or machismo, that he was like, he played it with, as he put it, an implied power of Superman doesn't need to put forth any like bravado because he just knows he's the fucking strongest.
Yeah.
And like he elected to play it as like a softer masculinity, as he put it, that was kind of, that he felt was coming to more of a prominent place in like television and stuff like that, and movies, because like that's also when you get like, you're getting characters like Rocky, who, you know, is a boxer and is buff as shit, but like when you actually get down to it, he's just kind of a innocent little kid who just wants someone to like be, you know, he wants to home. And so like that was very, I don't know if Rocky directly was an inspiration for this performance. I'm just drawing comparisons.
Right.
And so But yeah, just his performance as Superman. We then get kind of, I guess, before we move on to is there anything you want to say about the helicopter scene?
Well, I think like you again, to kind of echo everything that you just said. Like, it's such an iconic scene, and like I think this scene and like the theme hitting and it, like John Williams, it's fucking he's such a fantastic composer, and like all of his music is great. This theme might be one of my favorite superhero themes. Honestly,
I have a very controversial statement about this theme. I like it more than the Star Wars theme.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
It's basically the same thing. It is almost one for one the same thing, but the way this intro is like the way it builds into it, I think I like a little bit more than the like. I know that's crazy to say, and I'm sure if we're watching a Star Wars movie and you ask me then, I would say the Star Wars theme, no doubt.
Yeah.
But like after watching this and Superman 2, I'm kind of leaning towards the Superman theme.
I really, really like the Superman theme, but
you do not have to agree with me.
No, I don't agree with you. I like Star Wars more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that theme, and like going a little side tangent for a second, like being in a movie theater and hearing the Star Wars theme hit and the opening crawl hit, and like it just like has brought like a tear to my eye before, because it's so fucking good and it's so cool. But this theme is fucking amazing, and it's legitimately one of my probably top 3 to 5 favorite superhero themes. Because there's a lot to pick from. I feel like that's pretty impressive, but
yeah. Well, you know what's crazy?
Notable,
this is another side tangent. We'll be able to compare the feeling of hearing the Superman in 10 years apart, because we watched Force Awakens in theaters in 2015. 2025, we're going to see Superman together. By the way, this is actually the farthest in advance I've ever bought movie tickets.
Really?
Yeah, I think the only other one I could say maybe is we bought Force Awakens tickets pretty early. We bought them in November when they came out. Yeah, we bought them in November.
You remember that?
I remember it because I remember it because it's when we went and saw Creed also.
Yeah.
And the movie, not the band. That's an important distinction to make.
It is an important distinction.
Because I also remember that night because I told Dad, I was like, yeah, I mean, when I went and saw Creed, he's like, the band? I was like, no. So.
He said that?
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, why do you think me and why would go see Creed? He's like, I don't fucking know. But anyways, we then get one of the greatest montages. Hi there. Something wrong with the elevator? As the jewel thief is crawling out the window. And so we get the montage of Superman stopping a jewel thief, a car/boat chase, and of course rescuing a cat stuck in a tree. All full with quips, and I'll say it one more fucking time, charm. Mm-hmm. So much of this is so freaking charming. And we get a cop being driven to drinking, and a child slapped because of this. So not all great things, I guess. But
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but it then ends with Air Force One being struck by lightning, and Superman coming to act in place of the engine lost, with the pilot saying, "Fly, don't look, just fly." Fucking, all of this is so perfect.
Well, and then like he proceeded to gawk out the window. After he was like, "Don't look."
Yeah, I'll look. You fly. The only thing I will talk shit on about this scene is the transition between him rescuing Lois and flying to all this, where it's like the static shot of him like floating in the air doing.
Yeah.
It's so you could so tell he doesn't know what to do with his hand.
Yeah.
Like very Ricky Bobby. Like, what do I do with my hands while I'm flying? Because he like he keeps changing positions.
Yeah, that's like my only complaint with these movies is like the flying is so like you said, like they don't know what to do or how to position it or how to move fluidly. Yeah, and I think it gets better, but first, when he first starts flying, it's a little rough. It's a little wonky looking.
Yeah, this is where like you got to be like, oh, like you're like, how do I say this? Like you're like, oh man, a better comic book movie probably wouldn't be doing this. And then you're like, oh, but there wasn't a better comic book movie at the time. This is the comic book movie. Yeah. And so we then also get a brief scene of Lex immediately calling that Superman must be an alien, if not for the fact that only he would be able to, he as in Lex would be able to so painful. Fuck. If not for the fact that only Lex would be able to pull off such a hoax of this magnitude, which I love that. I love that fucking like. I just love every chance he gets to say he's the smartest guy in the world.
Yeah.
He does. And then I also love the touch of him putting his robe on while he was still in the pool. And then calling out to him. He's like, why didn't you give me this when I'm out of the pool? I love that.
I noticed that while they were having that discussion, and Otis put his robe on him while he's still in the pool.
Yeah.
And then in my head, I was like, why did you do that? And then he puts it on and steps out of the pool, and he's like, and next time, put my robe on after I get out of the pool.
That had to be improv. There's no way that wasn't, because that's such a like.
Oh, I want to look that up now. That I wonder if it was. It feels like it had to have been or could have been.
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen anything that says it was, but yeah, it was so smooth. And then eventually we do get the rooftop meeting of Lois and Superman, quickly blurring the line of interview and flirtation. Lois starting out by asking him normal, somewhat mundane questions like height, weight, before asking questions that are a lot more intimate. And finally, when Lois asks Superman how fast can he fly, he convinces her to let him take her on a flight as the two tour the night sky. I did actually say New York City. I mean Metropolis.
Not just me.
I put that in my notes until they're flying hand in hand. I made that note because all of the shots are just of New York City. Like, that's why I made that note. I just remember that. They do not try to, like,
hide the fact that it's just New York.
New York, yeah. And so, yeah, as they're flying hand in hand, they fly around the city until they're flying hand in hand, almost like I love that there's like a dance quality to this scene, like they're waltzing in the air.
Yeah. Even
after I think Superman drops her and they're like going up in the air together. It's such an iconic shot. They've done that multiple times in comic books and every iteration of Superman does this. The only thing I will say is the narration of From Lois about the flying scene I hated because she was like narrating the whole thing, where I think like they did such a good job. I feel like you could have just left the silence in there and just let them like physically emote
for itself.
I have a feeling that's going to be one of those like a studio executives like, why is there no dialogue?
I can see that.
So
yeah, because it didn't need it at all.
Yeah.
The scene had so much heart in it just as itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is where I want to give a shout out to Margot Kidder, who played Lois Lane. I love how kind of a layered nature she gives to Lois, where at the beginning it's like this mix of like hard-headed and determined, with her instance of like her pushing her stories and like trying to make front page, but like still consistently like spelling words incorrectly or having to get like, hey, how do you spell this word? Kind of a hint at this like there's a bumbling nature to her persistence. Yeah. I love that. I think she does just a lot more in her portrayal of Lois to make her like more than just a snarky reporter or just a damsel in distress. Kind of more of like a three-dimensional character than I think you would expect from kind of a movie of this era. And then if you then, I think it helps like it helps play into her interactions with Superman, with her bouncing between her curiosity as a reporter, but then her infatuation as like a person and a woman. I think creates just a really interesting dynamic for the character all around. And I want to give her a shout out.
No, I think she did a great job. I mean, I like her portrayal of Lois Lane a lot more than any of the other ones, like from the live action movies.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I got you. And so then we do have to, in my notes I said, we do have to talk about Christopher Reeves, who just knocks it out of the fucking park. As I've already said, I think you can argue as much as this movie has like aged poorly, such as like the villain's plot or the some of the more practical special effects have not aged as well. Yeah. I think you cannot argue that Reeves' performance still doesn't hold up to this day. Because knowing that because he was already a larger gentleman at the time, so we're going to be kind of retreading ground here, but like At the time, because he was an already larger gentleman, he felt that the masculine image had changed, that he could portray a more gentle, vulnerable masculinity, a more implied power, while consistently remaining casual, almost like a gentle giant quality. He was also advised by a creative consultant that despite Reeve being attracted to the idea of Superman and Clark being a dual role, he would be playing the role as if he was always Superman, but Superman himself was the one playing Clark. In other words, he needed to be the dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
Yes.
And despite being a lifelong athlete, when he got the role, he decided he needed to put on weight to look, just get more buff. So he trained with David Prowse for 2 months straight to prepare, gaining a supposed 30 pounds. I think he went from like 210 to 250 or something like that. Like he got yoked for that. And why? Do you know who David Prowse is?
I have no idea.
You might know his. So he was the physical actor for one Darth Vader.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
The Irish guy?
Or Scottish. Yeah.
Scottish? Okay.
Yeah. And he was friends with David Prowse.
Huh.
And like they just got yoked. He just got yoked. I will say, with the suit, as much as I think this suit holds up, and I fucking love this suit.
Yeah.
Does not highlight how jacked Christopher Reeve got.
Yeah, I think I was kind of worried about how like the suit was gonna look, I guess, going into these movies, because I didn't remember it being very big or anything. I mean, it doesn't look huge, but the suit looks better than I was expecting it to, and like this, I love how vibrant it is too. It just the colors make you feel happy, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but.
It's something comforting and classic to it.
Yeah.
It's just the suit is. I would still argue, I think there's an argument that this is still the best on-screen suit. I think we'll probably have to kind of watch all the movies to determine that.
Yeah.
But with that, back to the plot. We get Lex pontificating further about his own genius and ways he could actually best Superman if needed be. And he does prove it by hypothesizing that if he can track down kryptonite, which he seems to have, it could be used to weaken Superman. And this is where I find Lex's cronies endlessly entertaining. It's interesting you compared them with the Wet Bandits, because in my notes, I said they have a bulk and skull nature to them. Like especially with how Otis repeats Lex's lines as if we have as if he was having the same thoughts of Lex.
Yeah.
I fucking love that. That actually reminds me of have you ever seen the clip of Stone Cold when he turned heel? He was like teaming with Vince McMahon, and like Vince was like giving commands to a bunch of wrestlers, and he was like repeating the commands after him.
I haven't ever seen that.
I'll show it to you, but like that's what it also reminds me of that. And then so then we get the line. My favorite line from one of these is like, "Don't you two get chills just from being around me?" I fucking love it. We then get a series of scenes of Lex, Otis, and Ms. Tessmacher continually trying to commandeer missiles to concoct his plan. Not all of it ages too well, but overall really funny stuff. I don't remember what ages too well.
I mean, I think if I was to guess, maybe just like the soul, like the car crashes from the remote control, and Miss Tessmacher, is it Tessmacher?
Tessmacher, yeah.
She's laying on the ground like unharmed in like a red dress, and then all the soldiers are just like, well, there's a pretty lady laying on the ground.
That's right, yeah.
I guess we'll have to give her mouth to mouth. For a car accident.
Oh my god, yeah. I forgot about that completely. Yeah.
And then the general's like, or the captain or sergeant, whatever the fuck he is, he's
like,
just like,
get out of the way, I got this.
I wouldn't want you guys to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. Don't watch me.
Which is like, there was something undeniably funny about the scene, but still also like, hey, I don't even know if this was cool back then.
Yeah, like it's funny, but it is like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe not.
Yeah.
But
this is followed by Lex finally contacting Superman via frequency, which I thought was a really cool touch, to where only that he can hear while Clark is being grilled by Perry White. In a panic, Clark jumps out of the window and changes on his way to confront Lex. I thought this was a really cool scene. I love the like jumping out of the, just like literally being like, all right, I just have to fucking go. I love that touch. And then Lex then reveals he lied about a toxic gas that was set to release upon Metropolis. As Superman arrives, then Lex decides to reveal his plan to trigger the San Andreas fault line, flooding a large portion of Southern California. Doing so by commandeering 2 rockets, Lex tricks Superman into opening a box that contains kryptonite. Which, going back, in the interview, Superman just tells Lois all of his weaknesses.
Yeah.
Superman, don't fucking do that. That's a bad, because then Lex goes, okay, I know how to beat you now.
Yeah, and that's funny when they were having that interview and he was like, yeah, and then this, and then this, and then this. I was kind of like, don't do that.
But also, Lois, don't fucking print that.
Exactly. That's bad on Lois too. To just like give it all away completely. Just maybe you should refrain from just.
Don't be a reporter. No, joking.
Don't be a reporter. No. Pick a different job.
But let's see. Whilst Lex is gloating he informs Superman that the second rocket is aimed at Hackensack, New Jersey for some reason. Doesn't provide any reason why. He just says it is.
Maybe just to like, because they're on opposite sides of the country, so he can't, like it's just.
Oh, like isolated in event. Okay.
Like he has to make a choice of which one to go to.
That's, yeah. Or just because who knows? But Hackensack, New Jersey also happens to be home of one Ms. Tessmacher's mother, triggering a change in her heart. Ms. Tessmacher fishes Superman out of the water. He was thrown in the water when he has the kryptonite strapped to his neck. I left that out. Superman and disposes of the kryptonite, but not before stealing a kiss from the Man of Steel. Soon, Superman has taken flight once again, and first after the rocket aimed in New Jersey, per his agreement with Ms. Tessmacher. And then Supes disposes of the first rocket, he is unable to stop the second as it makes impact, and the San Andreas fault is triggered, splitting the Earth. I can write the words, I just can't read them. While we cut to the different scenes of disasters taking place, Superman races to rebuild the fault line as it falls apart, all while rescuing buses of children, preventing a train wreck, and saving Superman's best pal, Jimmy Olsen, who he's been in this movie this whole time. I just haven't called out to him because he really hasn't done anything. But I just always like when they include Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, I kind of completely forgot about Jimmy up until this point that you mentioned him, because he really doesn't do much.
The movies often do. This is still, which, I know I said let's not talk about Snyder. This is still better treatment than Jimmy Olsen got in the Snyderverse. As Jimmy Olsen was hanging from the side of the Hoover Dam as it starts to crumble, I do think this does a terrific job of evoking this spread thin, chaotic feeling with the valley below the Hoover Dam beginning to flood as Lois is in her car, starts to get swallowed by the fault line, continuing to open up, which Superman isn't even aware of at the time. I think it just very much builds the tension of like, how can he stop everything, or what's going to give, because obviously he's not going to be able to do, so we think. And unfortunately, as he stops the impending flood, I should say before we continue, do you have anything to say about anything I've mentioned so far? Specifically,
I would just be kind of reiterating what you're saying. So
awesome!
You're doing such a fantastic job with this.
Superman learns of the danger Lois is in, arriving too late as Lois takes her last breath. We then get what I think is the most controversial scene in the movie. In his desperation to not let the person he cares for about dies, while he feels helpless once again, in a brilliant moment of acting from Mr. Reeve, as he lets out this anguished scream and shoots up to the heaven, with the ghosts of Jor-El and Jonathan Kent speaking to him, pretty much saying that this is a really bad idea. We know what you're going to do. Still, despite this, Superman flies as fast as he can, reversing the polarity and the rotation of the Earth, and turning back time to save Lois. This is a scene, Wyatt, I don't know how I feel about this scene. Because the theme and the idea of it, I fucking love. The idea of losing another person because he couldn't like losing another person he loved because his powers couldn't save them.
Yeah.
Not letting that happen again, like literally willing to reverse time to save the people he loves. I love that idea. But at the same time, if you can turn back time, what the fuck does anything matter?
Yeah.
You know, I think,
Yeah.
and so this is really where this movie very much, as much as this movie does a lot to establish the comic book, and not this movie, not just this movie, but the next one too, as they establish what comic book movies are, have done just as much damage to the character as Superman and Clark Kent, in my opinion, because this is very much the start of like, he can literally turn back time, so what the fuck can't he do?
Yeah.
Do you have any feelings about this scene?
I don't like it. I mean, I don't enjoy it. I think like you said, it takes away from the stakes and the character, and like it just kind of makes it like nothing that any antagonist can do to him. Nothing matters, because if he can spin the Earth back and just reverse time, then he can't. It's just like reloading a save in a game. I mean, I don't know. It's silly. I don't like it. This is the point. This is the part of the movie that I really didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
I like you said, I like the theme of like he's so distraught by Lois like dying that he wants to do whatever he can to save her.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know. I just don't love that one. So.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. I guess I just said my piece on it. So, yeah, I think it, again, thematically, I fucking love it. What it means and the implications of it, I don't love it. So I fall somewhere, and I think I don't feel indifferent. I feel strongly in both ways about this scene. I'm very conflicted.
That's fair.
With that, the scene we get afterwards of Superman breathing a sigh of relief as Lois chews him out about what she's been through before sharing a tender moment and almost kissing before Jimmy Olsen throws cold water on everyone, including ourselves. The film concludes with Superman turning in Lex and Otis into the prisoner, and I think was it the warden at this point saying like, "You saved America, Superman"?
I don't remember.
Is that the first or the second one?
I don't remember.
That's fair. We watched both of them back to back.
Yeah.
And as Superman flies into the horizon, by the way, John Williams really did just play the Star Wars theme again, didn't he? That's literally you can see that's my last note as I'm watching this movie. So,
okay. So, side note about the reversing the Earth thing.
Uh-huh.
What if that didn't work and he just started spinning shit backwards and like it just fucking fucked everything up?
So if we're talking like actual physics,
yeah,
it would really ruin things. It would not obviously would not reverse time, but
well, no, yeah, but like he would have just because we're moving in this direction and just to stop that.
Yeah, it would go.
It would fucking fuck everything up.
He would just come back to Lois's body floating in the air because of the gravity. Yeah. So yeah, that would not work. So Wyatt, with that, we were gonna try to do Superman 1 and 2 in the same video.
Surprise.
Obviously, that's not gonna happen because this is already like an hour long. Wyatt, what were your thoughts on Superman 1? Did it live up to the hype, or how do you feel about it?
So, yes, it lived up to the hype. I was excited about it, but not overly excited about it. And I
remember really quick when I first suggested this idea to you. You were like, I was like, "Do you want to watch like all the Superman movies?" You were like, "No." I think you did say I didn't want to do it because I had initially planned to just do this by myself, and I told you about it, and then you were like, "No, I want to do it." But like when I first asked you about it, you were like, "I don't really want to watch all these."
Well, because like I just didn't have any fond memories of them, and I don't know. But no, after having watched them, I had a good time watching these two movies. It's better than I expected. It's better than I remembered.
Mm-hmm.
I really like these characters have a lot of charm to them, and genuinely I would watch these movies again.
Oh yeah.
I want a movie of just Lex and his goons.
Oh my god, absolutely.
That'd be fucking awesome.
Which we almost get that again, which we'll talk about in the next video.
Yeah.
And my final thought, I think this movie is every bit a classic. Like literally, definition classic, definition groundbreaking.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned like this movie at the very beginning, like this movie felt like a movie from the 80s. I think this is because like movies from the 80s and onwards really like took from this and just iterated upon it, especially talking about superhero and comic books. Like, you know, I'm surprised how much this feels like Spider-Man. Like moments of this remind me of Spider-Man, the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man, which so.
And it's cool because like we've been so excited about the new Superman movie that's going to happen. So that made me excited to watch this, but then watching this made me even more excited for the new Superman movie, and it has just made me excited about Superman. Like I want to read Superman comics. Lately,
Absolutely.
So it's just it's a cool feeling.
Absolutely. And with that, we're going to keep writing that feeling, and we're going to keep talking about every Superman movie theatrical release. Next up on the docket is, of course, Spider-Man. Superman 2. I'm sure we'll talk about that eventually. Superman 2. We are doing the theatrical cut, not the Donner cut. We'll talk more about that in the next video. Until then, please like and subscribe, follow along. Until then, for the third time, we got to get back to nerding out about Superman.
What he said.